It's been a whirlwind of recruiting for Penn State as they have had a number of things going on. It's been a while since we checked in with Chris on Penn State recruiting. Chris, we are so glad to have you back with us. Talk a little bit of recruiting, a little bit of some fun stories that you have regarding some recruits and things like that going on. The Penn State recruiting philosophy is definitely different under Matt Campbell than it was under James Franklin. I think that there's a little bit of getting used to here. I know there are some Penn State fans that are a little adamant that maybe things are not always going the best way, but there are also Penn State fans that make good points that in today's day and age of college football, you don't need all the 5 stars. And so if you can bring in guys who are good fits and that are good culture guys and stuff like that, you can be a really good program in college football in 2026. Time will tell what Matt Campbell does and how it works out for him. But Chris, go ahead. Let us know kind of your perspective of where Penn State recruiting is at right now, philosophy-wise. What is Matt Campbell trying to do, and what's your thoughts on it?
All right, I'm gonna talk kind of fast, gonna try to get through this quick to not be too long-winded here. So the first thing I want to say that I just want to clarify is what I'm about to say, in my opinion, I want to clarify. There is a difference in an opinion of how Matt Campbell is as a game day coach compared to how he is as his NIL model, how he spends in recruiting. They're two different things, okay? You could have a good opinion on one and not so good opinion on another. The reason I say that is because when people are a little bit down on his recruiting, which I am a little bit, and questioning some things, you always hear, the guy didn't even coach a game. Yeah, he didn't even coach one game. Well, they're two completely separate things. The guy could be a great game day coach, but maybe, that I have total faith in, but maybe his recruiting philosophy, I might question some things. Okay, they're two different things. So one thing that's important to remember here as I go through this, when Matt Campbell got this job, okay, he said, he was asked a question about how he wants to build his team, his roster. He wants to build through recruiting. He's flat out said he wants to build through recruiting and development, not be a big portal guy, not live in the portal. Obviously, year one with the big coaching change and so many players leaving and coming in, that's a different story. I just mean in the future, going forward, he wants to he wants to build through recruiting, he stated. Now, I think they have to do better. I was not thrilled with their recruiting. They did get some good players, some solid players. He did a good job finding a lot of under the radar guys, which is kind of his forte. But I use On3 to judge in recruiting because, On3, it's first of all, the hit rate's better on On3. It's a proven better hit rate than 24/7. And, they take into account an average. 24/7, halfway through a cycle, you could have a team with 20 verbals as opposed to a team with 10. The team with 20 verbals will be ranked higher just because they have more guys, but the team with 10 might be on a better trajectory where they have more 4 and 5 stars. So that's On3 has a rolling number that goes up as a recruiting cycle of how many top recruits they go by, and it's a rolling number as it goes up. So by On3, not the industry ranking, but just On3 alone, they're 20th right now. You got to do better than 20th. Okay. In my opinion, you have to do better than 20th. Now, let me explain Matt Campbell's NIL plan. And I think I said this several months ago. I said this on other podcasts. Matt Campbell and his GM have flat out come out and said they do not want to spend big NIL money on high school recruits and take a chance on them not panning out on unproven talent unless two things, unless they feel they could get an immediate return on their investment. In other words, they don't want to tie like high 6 figures or 7 figures into a big time recruit if he's going to be taking a year or so to develop on the bench and have all that money tied up when he's not even playing. The other thing is they don't want to give big NIL to a high school recruit unless they feel very strongly about him, unless he's just a surefire, almost can't miss guy. Kei'Shjuan Telfair, they didn't get. He's an example. They gave a big offer to him. Okay, that is their recruiting plan. So when he's saying this, and it's funny, I predicted this. I used to go on that other podcast as well, that Mark Lesko podcast. Like, I think it was like back in like around March or something. And I predicted this. I kept telling these guys, I said, he's not going to recruit well if he's not willing to spend. And he's admitting he's not willing to spend unless it's like a certain type of player, a certain type of recruit. And so many people, they didn't want to hear it. They just, they want it positive, just like everybody does. Like, a lot of fans don't want to hear the truth. And they didn't want to hear it. They just wanted some kind of positive spin, which to me, that's not me. That's fake. And here, lo and behold, here we are in the middle of July, recruiting just about over, and everything panned out exactly like I said. And what's funny about so many fans that just want to put this positive spin on things is the pivots. People do so many pivots to suit the narrative. When Pat Kraft was in the coaching search, regardless of who he was going to hire, he was adamant there were going to be big NIL spenders. They're going to have an NIL war chest. And that exactly didn't happen. So when Matt Campbell got the job and he wasn't going after these big portal guys. Now, granted, we had to get a lot of portal pieces, and we got some good guys from Iowa State and a few other guys that are solid players. I said, you could kind of see the trajectory of this. Well, this is what I heard from those guys was, well, you got to give them a chance. You got to get it's only the portal. You got to give them a chance till recruiting starts. Recruiting started. It started off kind of slow, and it was kicking the can down the road. Well, it's only March. It's only April. You got to give them a chance. It's too early. You got to give them a chance until official visits come, and we start getting guys visiting. Well, official visits come. They did all right. They got some decent players, but they finished 20th. Now, the funny part about all this is now people pivot to, well, it's better to pay for a proven portal guy than it is an unproven guy. They weren't saying that before. So all it is a lot of people just finding a way to try to be positive and spin it any way they could to keep kicking the can down the road. LSU, Auburn, Florida, all first-year head coaches, all killing it. I think two are all three of them, but I know at least two of them, top 10 recruiting classes right out of the gate. So yes, relationships are important, but all these other programs had just as much time to build relationships. The difference was they weren't afraid to spend money. That's the difference. Matt Campbell kind of has a plan, an NIL model similar to similar to Indiana's, where, everybody talks about fit and culture. And of course, fit and culture are important, without a doubt about it. You want guys there for the right reasons. You want guys there, football reasons. They're all football, going to do the right thing. That does not mean just because a kid wants good NIL because he knows he's a top recruit, that doesn't mean he's going to be a bad fit. Like, people can only hide behind the fit and culture thing so long. That doesn't exclude not going out and getting top talent. Now, let me ask you this real quick, JR, and then I'll move on to my grades in recruiting. So Penn State, like I said, they're kind of using the NIL or the Indiana model of NIL, not paying big for a lot of top guys, going and getting lower level guys and building them up. How many top college football programs right now of the top 15, 20, however many top perennial powerhouse program? I don't care if some of these teams have been down. I'm just saying historically, your top brand names, college powerhouse, college football programs. How many of them besides Penn State uses that Indiana model? Could you name any others that fully go out and use that Indiana model?
Yeah, I can't really name one off the top of my head. It seems like the model that everybody's kind of using right now is the pay for one big class and really just put everything forward with that one. You know, USC has been doing that. Texas A&M is doing that this year. Georgia's kind of gotten away from that.
Right.
So I think they're top 20 still. Last time I looked
Yeah.
on On3.
So
Not a whole lot of programs, but it kind of feels like everybody's kind of going for the every other year or once every 3 or 4
right.
years we're going to pay big
So
and try to get a top class.
like Georgia's always in the top 10. They're a little bit outside the top 10. They don't have
that'll correct itself. That'll correct itself.
Right. And they don't have a big, like, quantity wise, they don't have a big number of recruits, but they're still paying to go after the top dogs. In fact, I read something where Georgia's going for quality over quantity, which I agree with. Now, my next question that ties into this, and then I'll move on. For all the people that like this Indiana model of not paying big for top talent and the whole Indiana model, let's just take, say, Notre Dame in Oregon, two good teams. He's still trying to get over the hump. You know, Oregon loses a lot of big games, but they're still a good team program trying to get over the hump. Notre Dame's always right there as well. For my question to you and everyone listening, if the Indiana model is the better model, do you guys think Notre Dame and Oregon would have a better chance at winning a national championship in the next 5 to 10 years by either A, continuing to go out to pay and acquire a roster filled with a bunch of top 4-stars and 5-star guys, or do you think they would have a better chance at winning a championship if they had a roster made up of 75, 80% 3-stars? Which scenario do you think they'd have a better chance at winning a national championship in the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, that's like asking, you know, do I want a full glass of milk or half a glass of milk with my Oreos?
Sure,
I mean,
right?
I'm gonna want the more talent, obviously.
Hello. So like these people that like try like that pivot and want to try to defend this model. Indiana did this model because they didn't have a choice. They weren't a big recruiting team. It wasn't like it was some grand plan they had. They had the best coach you've ever seen. They're probably the biggest outlier, and they played flawless football, and it worked for them. You know, that is not
the best eye for talent too. You got to take that into account.
Yes.
Kirk Cignetti.
Yes.
I mean, even going back to Alabama, he had one of the best eyes for talent that Nick Saban has ever had on his staff.
Yes.
I mean, Saban will even
the
tell you
guy
that.
knows he's an incredible coach, and he has an eye for talent, and he knows how to develop them. He plays basic football, and everybody executes at a high level. The one guy I think on that staff that does not get enough credit is his defensive coordinator. What's his name? Brian Harsin. I forget. Haynes. Yeah, that guy's incredible. His defense is flawless the way they execute. But, you know, I asked that question for just, you know, it's a simple, stupid question for an obvious reason, because there's people like a lot of Penn State fans that still try to defend this. So that's all I wanted to say, just so you know where I'm coming from. Now, as a game day coach, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, with Iowa State talent, he had actually a slightly better record versus the top 25, and I think the top 10, than what James Franklin did with Penn State. So as a game day coach, I have total faith in him. I mean, granted, he hasn't coached a game at Penn State yet, but as a game day coach, especially in bigger games, you can't get any worse. I love him as a game day coach going forward. I have a lot. I do have concerns about his recruiting. I'm not being a Matt Campbell hater. I understand why they do what they do, why they don't want to take that risk of pain, but you got to step up to the plate. We don't have great NIL. We're not a top 10 NIL type of school, but it's been well established. We are a mid-tier NIL school. So that, like, anywhere from 15th to 20th, we have mid-tier NIL. You know, Georgia doesn't have great NIL. Clemson doesn't. You know, Bama's obviously very down this year. But they're still going out and spending what they have. You know, if a team like, if a school like Notre Dame, Ohio State could go out and get 15 to 17 or so top blue chips because they have more money, well, then Penn State should be able to go out and get 8, 9, 10 blue chips at least. They should be able to close on these guys. Okay,
I got 7 right now. 7.
Well, that's 4. When I say blue chips, I don't mean just 4 stars. I mean just upper. Like they just missed on so many top targets, and I'll get into them.
Yeah,
so here's my grades. They did a better job on defense overall than they did offense. Now, this class, it started off slow. Then they started to catch fire. They're still missing a lot of top guys. But here's a couple crazy stories. Wide receiver. This went from looking like they could have the best wide receiver class they've had in God knows how long to the worst. We have one wide receiver commit, a guy named Landon Blum. He plays 8-man football out in Kansas. Big, tall guy, 4-star, not the fastest guy. Now, here's what happened. All these guys were on their OVs together. The last official visits, we had Deshaun Hall, who was a 4-star from Bama, Khalil Taylor, who was all Penn State, 4-star from Pennsylvania, and Jamir Dean, who I think was the best of them. And credit to Kei'Shjuan and Campbell, they found Jamir Dean before anybody. He was at Tennessee when he's a 3-star. He bolted up the rankings. Now that kid's a stud. He's big, he could run, he's fast, he could jump. Jamir Dean committed to Penn State early on because a lot of big schools weren't on him. Jamir Dean was always a big Georgia Bulldog fan. This is the luck. And one of the things I also said back in March is there's going to be a learning curve with Matt Campbell when it comes to recruiting at this level. And here's what I mean. So Jamir Dean committed to Penn State months back. Now everybody knew he's going to be tough to hold on to because he's only 4-hour drive or something like that from Georgia, and he loves Georgia. And he went on some visits to Georgia, but then his last official visit to Penn State, he literally reaffirmed his commitment to Matt Campbell. He reaffirmed it, said he's all Penn State, he's good to go. He goes home that week, and he went out sometime that week. He snuck out on a visit to Georgia after he said he was done and reaffirming with Penn State. He snuck out on a visit to Georgia. I don't think he told anybody. And within a day or so, just like that, he flipped to Georgia. Okay? That sucks, but if you were going to lose one, you kind of had an idea he would be the hardest one to keep. Now, Deshaun Hall, this one's crazy. Okay, big, tall. Campbell loves big, tall receivers. He likes big body guys everywhere, every position. So he came on his official visit to Penn State. He literally gave Penn State a silent commit. He on his official visit, he silently committed to Campbell. Supposedly said he's shutting it down. Okay, we think we're good. He goes home. Auburn was always recruiting him pretty hard. He starts talking to Auburn after he silently commits to Penn State, tells Campbell he's shutting it down. He starts talking to Auburn as soon as he gets home. Auburn kept pushing. I heard we offered him, I don't know what it was. I heard we offered him a pretty good NIL deal. Sure, Auburn offered more. They always do. Do you know what the difference? He flipped to Auburn, committed to Auburn. Do you know supposedly what the difference was in this commitment, which was actually a big part of his deciding factor? Auburn gave him a Dodge Durango. Auburn gave this
surprise me with Auburn, yeah.
They gave him a Dodge Durango, and that was supposedly. And the funny thing with Penn State is, there's wise asses on the message board. People are saying, I'm sure people will blame Campbell for not giving them a vehicle now. Well, but you know what's funny? We have there's a Blaze Alexander's, a big car dealership up here that has leased cars to a lot of players. They gave Fleming some kind of big souped up sports truck. So I'm not saying that he should have just done that, but that's not, that's something we've done. Penn State has done too within the rules. So there's 2 big commits we thought were good with. Jamir Dean says he's done. Secret visits Georgia, flips. Deshaun Hall silently commits. Week later, flips to Auburn. Now we're down to Khalil Taylor. Khalil Taylor, same thing. Basically silently committed to Campbell, told him he's shutting it down. He's not going on any more visits. He's done. He's good. Now, all these picks went in for Khalil Taylor to Penn State, just like they did Deshaun Hall to Penn State. Khalil Taylor's agent kept pushing him. I mean, they leveraged the hell out of this situation. Khalil Taylor's agent said, don't shut it down. Take one or two more visits. So Nebraska was always on him big, and he played in a 7-on-7 camp with Trey Taylor, Nebraska's quarterback commit. And they have a great relationship. They're good friends. He really likes them. So he goes on a visit after he said he's shutting it down, goes on a visit to Nebraska, absolutely loves it. Nebraska ups their NIL offer. I heard it was anywhere from like high six figures, possibly to seven figures. So you could say anywhere around the $800,000 million range. I heard they upped it pretty big. I heard our offer, even though we upped it, I heard it really wasn't all that close. He makes an announcement, commits to Nebraska. So after this official visit, and I predict again, I back in March, even after March, I said I'm going to make a prediction right now, knowing how they use NIL. I said I'm going to predict, and I wish I was wrong. We're going to miss on Khalil Taylor, we're going to miss on Deshaun Hall, and we're going to miss on Jamir Dean. After that official visit, when they thought they're getting all of them, I had people coming out of the woodwork trying to hammer me. And I'm like, well, if they got Khalil Taylor and they loosen up in their NIL, that's good. I'm happy. But you guys are jumping the gun here. It's not over. Lo and behold, it happened. They missed on all of them. They got one. Now, here's where the learning curve comes in. There was a kid, another receiver commit. His last name was Baldwin. I don't know, Jamal Baldwin, something Baldwin. He was from Arizona. His father was Doug Baldwin, played for the Pitt Panthers, played in the NFL. Kid has Pennsylvania ties. Kid loved Penn State. He's a good prospect. I think he's only a 3-star, but I watched this film. He's fast. He's a very good route runner. To me, he's underrated. He was scheduled to come to Penn State. At some point after the 3 receivers I mentioned, he was supposed to come on an official visit after those guys. Because Campbell thought he's getting these 3 receivers, plus they had Landon Bloom, they told Baldwin to cancel. They canceled his visit. Why would you do that? Like, listen, I do not like James Franklin, but he would never do that. You don't go cancel a visit, even if you're not planning on taking a kid. You still take his official visit and you keep him on the back burner. You just be honest with them. It's a numbers thing right now. You're our next in line. And they canceled his official visit, so they lost out on him because they took the word of 3 teenagers. I mean, 3 teenagers with agents involved in NIL. Yeah, they never change their mind. And we're left with 1 receiver commit. That was horrible. So the wide receiver grade, I give an F. I like Landon Blum, but when you only got 1 receiver in a full recruiting class, come on.
Well, and you gotta, this. I mean, this. You've been covering recruiting for a while. This wasn't just happening when NIL started. Wide receiver recruiting has always been the craziest of all the recruitings. I mean, other than quarterbacks, I guess, and defensive line can get a little crazy sometime too. But wide receiver recruiting is always so insane. And there is, I mean, like Matt Campbell, he is gonna have to get used to some of this wide receiver recruiting with other top dog schools, because you're not just running into Big 12 schools anymore, right? The SEC schools will do anything they can to keep the guys home because they know how much the fans will hate it. Nebraska is going to invest in a top-tier quarterback every 2, 3, 4 years, and they're going to tell that quarterback, we will get anybody you want here. Just make sure you come. And that's why Ohio State had no chance to get Trey Taylor, because Nebraska basically said, you're our king. We will do whatever you want. Some of these schools get desperate. Now, I'm not making excuses here. You still have to do what you're supposed to do. And I agree with you. You can't just cancel a visit on a kid. You can't just act like you got everything figured out. So that's a miss there for Campbell. But some of this is also Campbell has to get used to it, and Campbell has to figure it out. I hope he's learning because there is an aspect of this stuff, and I feel like he is learning. I mean, Matt Campbell seems like a very sharp guy. He's obviously done well at Iowa State, coming to Penn State. They didn't hire him, they didn't hire a bum. He knows what he's going to do, and he's going to learn from it.
Yeah. He never had to deal with NIL, though. That's the thing. Yeah. And the thing I said, like, the best thing that could come out of this is he got slapped in the face so bad with this stuff. And a lot of it is mainly just due to NIL that hopefully it hit him so hard that he realizes, all right, I got to loosen up and change. If I want these guys, I got to pay for them. Listen, like it or not, I like old school football better than this new era football. But no matter how much people want to spin it, it's an NIL world. It's an NIL game. You need to have an NIL coach. If you don't have a coach that embraces NIL, you're in trouble. Now, and to your point about Trey Taylor, there's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation from people that, seem like they know what they're talking about, that there's still a good chance he may flip to Ohio State. There's people out there that think down the road he's going to flip to Ohio State.
A little bit. So, I've heard some of that. I will believe it when I see it. I think Trey Taylor knows that Nebraska will do just about anything to keep him. And so, right. David Sanders a couple years ago was I'm going to go on a random trip to Ohio State and we'll see what happens. Well, that random trip was to try to get more money out of Tennessee. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Trey Taylor on a random trip to Ohio State, but it's probably more for money than it is anything else.
They all leverage.
We'll see. That's just my vibe right now. We'll see.
Yeah. No, you're probably right because they all play the leverage game. So running back, I would have gave this running back group a B. So they originally had Aiden Gibson and a pretty underrated running back from New Jersey named Chukwuma Odu. I don't know if I'm spelling his name right. Chukwuma Odu and Aiden Gibson. Now, Aiden Gibson is interesting. They're both big backs. Aiden Gibson was like 6'1", 6'2", 15 pound, big physical back. I was not as big on him as the rankings and some other people. Any back I get, regardless if they're big, small, whatever, I want a guy that's explosive. I want a guy that, they're not all going to be Saquon Barkley. I get it. But I want a guy that could take it the distance. He did not have good speed, but he was very physical back, grinder, really good between the tackles, breaking tackles, and a good receiver. Now, early on, he was supposed to be all Rutgers. They were supposed to be offering him a lot of money. Penn State did raise their offer for him. I don't know how much, but they raised their offer for him. He commits to Penn State. Everything seemed like it was good. This is Aiden Gibson I'm talking about. Everything seemed like it was good. We're good to go. We got him. So lo and behold, a couple weeks ago, nobody really saw this coming. There's no stories about it. He did something at some camp or something with his high school where he really didn't want to play high school football anymore. I don't know if he had a falling out with some coaches or whatever. So Rutgers does this thing where they steal recruits by reclassifying them. So what they did, they're in contact with this Aiden Gibson, and they found a way to reclassify him to 2026. He was a 27 guy. They found a way to reclassify him to 2026. They upped their offer a substantial amount, so they flipped Aiden. And our coaching staff had Aiden Gibson as one of their top backs. Not the level of Kei'Shjuan Spell, but since they weren't getting Kei'Shjuan Spell, they did have Aiden Gibson as in their top tier of their next backs. Again, I'm not as big on him. I don't think he's as big of a loss, but he flipped to Rutgers mainly because they're able to reclassify him. That Chukwuma Odu, watch out for this guy as a riser. I feel this guy should be a consensus 4-star. He's not. But this guy is, I think he's 6 foot or 6'1". He's like I think he's 6 foot 220, right? This guy could fly. There's a YouTube video out there. Or it's on Twitter. Try a YouTube video. Chukwuma Odu 100-meter dash. He ran like a 10.7 in the 100-meter dash. At that size, that is really fast. Like we're talking a low 4.4 guy. Now, part of the reason he was a little underrated not ranked this high is he had a bad ankle the entire football season, and he confirmed it straight up. Like it's not, it wasn't like a little nag. Like he had a bad ankle. He was still pretty fast though. He has good vision. He has quick feet. He could see the hole. He could cut. He's elusive, and he has breakaway speed. I would look for him to have a pretty big senior year and really shoot up the rankings. So I'm glad we locked him up. In fact, if you gave me a choice between Gibson and Odu, I'm taking Odu. So I'll still give running backs a B because I really like that Odu. Quarterback. This is the craziest. This is as crazy as wide receiver. So, okay, when Campbell was at Iowa State, there's a quarterback who's now a five-star on 24/7, high 4-star on threes, like a top 3 quarterback named Israel Abrams. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He ended up committing to Miami. Israel Abrams loved Matt Campbell and was actually going to commit to him at Iowa State. I don't know if he would have kept him with how much this guy shot up and the money involved, but he was going to commit to Campbell at Iowa State. When Campbell came to Penn State, every fan, insider, everybody thought, sure enough, within time, they'll reach out to Israel Abrams and recruit him to Penn State. They didn't even look at him. Matt Campbell came to Penn State, had zero interest in Israel Abrams. Israel Abrams went to the Elite 11 camp. When you look at the Elite 11s, the finals, it's not just the Elite 11 guys that rank them. On3 has their rankings, 24/7 has final rankings. I think Sports Illustrated. He was like top 2, top 3. In fact, I think one of them he split with Trey Taylor as the top quarterback. The kid lit it up. 6'4", 6'5", big arm. I mean, does a great job scrambling. Incredible arm talent, scrambling, keeping his eyes down the field and delivering strikes. Now, the reason, from what we were told, Matt Campbell didn't continue to recruit him is because he liked Peter Bork better. He also liked Will Menzel and Keegan Croucher, but they really didn't have a chance with Menzel and Croucher. Everybody knew once Oregon was with Menzel, that was it. So Peter Bork was the main guy. Here is what is absolutely insane. And this is where I think the staff, they could care less about recruiting rankings. I get that. But Peter Bork was their number one guy. And this is where I think they get a little arrogant, a little just a little too into themselves, hedging. So they wanted Peter Bork. Peter Bork, when it came to make a decision, and Peter Bork lit it up at the Elite 11 too. Trey Taylor, Peter Bork, and Israel Abrams were hands down the top 3 quarterbacks at the Elite 11 finals. Peter Bork's another guy, very 6'4", 220, throws one of the prettiest, most accurate deep balls, oozes arm talent, and he's a very good athlete. People don't realize how good of a runner he is. He was taking his time committing. Now, his agent, I think, probably tried to play the leverage game a little bit. His final 3 were Penn State, Virginia Tech, and Penn State and Georgia, right? And everybody kept, when's he decided? Like everybody thought it was coming. Now he kind of prolonged it. Now this is what's crazy. Khalil Taylor burned Penn State by saying he's shutting it down, not taking other visits, gave him their word. Even though he burned Penn State, the staff stayed on him and continued recruiting him. Peter Bork didn't do any of that. He didn't give any secret handshake, any silent commit. He just took his time a little longer than they liked. So the staff moved off of him. The staff moved off of Peter Bork, and they went and started recruiting Will Wood, a little 6'2" quarterback from Massachusetts. Now, I really, really like Will Wood, but he does not have the upside of Peter Bork. From what I was told, once the staff started looking at Will Wood, they absolutely fell in love with Will Wood and didn't look back. And here's the kicker. In the end, Peter Bork actually tried committing to Penn State, and they said no. Peter Bork tried to commit to Penn State, but because he took a little too longer than they liked, and they moved on to Will Wood, that was it. So you think about this. You got this new coaching staff that comes in, right? They have a chance to get two different quarterbacks. One's a 5-star, 2 top 5 caliber quarterbacks in Peter Bork and Israel Abrams, and they turn them both down to go get this little guy, Will Wood, who's a 3-star, the 30th some ranked quarterback or something like that in the country. I can't see what it is. Like, that's crazy. That's insane. Now, this Will Wood is super impressive. His film's like great. Like, he's back-to-back state championships he won, does incredible under pressure. I mean, he has guys in his face delivering strikes. Anybody that wants to see what Will Wood is all about, on YouTube, Will Wood plays for Xavier Brothers. That's the name of his high school. Go on YouTube, type in Xavier Brothers versus St. John's Prep, full game. That's the state championship. Will Wood lit it up. Like, it's easy to see why the staff is big on him. He's a good runner. He's a pure college quarterback. Like, if they did the rankings based off of how they're going to do in college and not the NFL, he would be a 4-star. Will Wood is kind of like your Trace McSorley type. It's kind of like it's kind of like Peter Bork, Israel Abrams would be like upside is more along the lines of like a Dante Moore, Trevor Lawrence, where they passed on them to go get a Trace McSorley. Like, I'm not saying the same exact quarterback, and so don't I don't want people to think I'm just giving you like that example, okay? And he absolutely lit it up.
You said Trace McSorley, and right after you said that, I saw him run straight up the middle and look just like Trace McSorley running around defenders. So I got really excited when he said that.
Yeah, that's funny.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's your quintessential smaller quarterback, but just that gamer, like no hesitation in his decision making, and he has a good arm. Like, his offensive line sucked, and he would have guys coming right in his face, scrambling, about to take a hit, rolling to the right, and he's just delivering strikes 40 yards downfield. St. John's versus Xavier Brothers, full game. Just all you have to do is watch the first half, and you'll be impressed. So I really like Will Wood. I give the quarterback position a B+, but to pass on Peter Bork and to pass on Israel Abrams, like with that kind of upside, especially when you wanted Peter Bork, that's crazy. So
I will say, and I am not necessarily disagreeing with you here, but one thing that does sometimes happen with new coaching staffs in the Power 4, sometimes with quarterbacks, is sometimes you are teaching agents, because every agent talks. Every agent knows each other. They talk. Not the uncle agents, but the regular agents. They know each other. They talk. And if you set the precedent of, well, we'll just let you do whatever you want and everything else, then other agents know that, and they know that they can kind of come in and command what they want. I mean, there are certain programs that have that perception by the agents and stuff like that. If I know, if what I think about Matt Campbell is true, I would say he's probably trying to establish that Penn State is not going to be a program like that. Does that mean that they should have done it? I don't know. Not for me to decide. Peter Bork is really good, so if he wants to commit, I have a hard time saying no to him too. But I also like what I'm seeing here from Will Wood as well. So I'm with you. Like, losing out on Peter Bork, yeah, it sucks, but this Will Wood guy, I'm liking what I'm seeing here, and I think he could be really good for Penn State.
He's a good, right? I mean, I really like Will Wood. It's just like, but there's a little more to the Peter Bork situation. I probably said more than what I was supposed to say, allowed to say, but there's a little more to it. I could maybe tell you off air that makes it even more insane that they passed on him. But anyways, I addressed wide receiver. Offensive tackle, I'll give offensive tackle a B+. They got Ryan Robbins, and they got a guy named David Tarwillie. David Tarwillie's from Ohio. He started off as like an average 3-star. He was like 6'6", 235 pounds when they recruited him. Very, very athletic. Great length. very athletic, could really move, just has the length and the athleticism to play tackle. Obviously, at 235 pounds, he had to put on weight. He's supposedly up to around 260, 265 now, and still looks really good. He shot up the rankings to a 4-star. He's their highest ranked recruit. I know on 24/7, maybe even on 3. I'm not sure, but just really good upside. Still has to, get up to 300 pounds if he could keep his athleticism at 300 pounds and just, develop a good technique. You could have something special there, like a lot of promise there. Ryan Robbins, their other tackle, he's a 3-star. He's like a higher 3-star. I like this Ryan Robbins. He's got better size. He's more game ready. I don't know his exact measurements, but you'll pull it up. Leighton Von Brandt was one of their number 1 targets, who was a pretty high 4-star, and we didn't get him. And when I watched Leighton Von Brandt and then I watched this Ryan Robbins film, I don't see a big difference. Like, I really think this Ryan Robbins has maybe not quite as athletic as what Von Brandt was, but I think overall he's just as good and has just as much talent. And I think he's kind of an under the radar prospect. Interior line, I gave him a C+. They got some okay guys, but they're basically just average 3-star guys that have potential, but they missed on their top targets. This is another area. Their top targets were a guy named Carter Jones from Virginia, whose girlfriend went to Penn State. So he was supposed to be all Penn State. Last minute, he decided, switched. He went to Clemson. Clemson was his dream school, but everybody thought he was going to Penn State. He was a top target. Lucas Roa was another one of their top targets. Lucas Roa was from California, but he had a lot of Pennsylvania roots. I think he was from Pennsylvania originally, had family in Pennsylvania. He was, at one point, people thought he was going to be a Penn State lock. That's how much he loved Pennsylvania. Texas, USC, Oregon got involved in his recruitment. You know how that goes. Don't want to pay the NIL. He goes to Texas. So it is what it is. Tight end. I gave tight end a B+. Really like their tight ends. Thing with Campbell's offense, they're heavy with tight ends. They love their tight ends. You're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, even some 13 personnel. They got a guy named Sean Curry from Massachusetts. I forget what school. And they got a guy from North Dakota. It was either North or South Dakota named Cooper Twelliger. South Dakota. Okay. Cooper Twelliger, they actually legitimately beat out Notre Dame for him. He is a 4-star tight end. He's like 6'4", 6'4.5", 215. Good all-around player, good receiver, good blocker. Just a good, solid, all-around, solid 4-star tight end. Sean Curry, I do not know how 4-star. Sean Curry is 6'7". He's 235, 240. He's a huge target. He's just as fast. I looked up their speed numbers. He's just as fast as Cooper Twelliger. Maybe even though he's bigger, maybe he's not quite as good as a blocker, but he'll develop into a good blocker. But Sean Curry, to me, is very similar to the tight end they got now in Ben Bramer. Just big, tall target. Probably has to get a little more diverse with his route tree, but just a guy that's going to be a red zone nightmare, a guy that's going to be great down the seam, down the middle of the field, that could go up and get the ball. And I think he should be a 4-star. So that's the offense. Like I said, a lot left to be desired. If they closed on those receivers they're supposed to get, maybe another running back, it would have been a lot better. But you can't have just one receiver that played 8-man football and think it's a good receiver. I mean, come on, you got to do better than that. So we'll go on to defense. Defensive end, they got 2 guys, Elijah Gurton and Carter Blattner. Elijah Gurton, they absolutely loved. Elijah Gurton, they probably gave the biggest NIL deal to of any of the recruits. I could confirm they gave Elijah Gurton a 7-figure deal, which is going way, way higher than what they normally would. And I mentioned this before, one thing Matt Campbell loves, especially at defensive end, he loves big body defensive ends. So I'm not saying he's not going to recruit the little speed rushers, but you're going to see more guys that are like Denai Dennis Sutton body types, Elijah Gurton 6'5", like 265. You're going to see more bigger tight ends, defensive ends than you're going to see like your Chop Robinsons, your Abdul Carters. Now, Gurton, ton of upside. He's obviously very physical. He's got great size. He's got great length. And for his size, he has a pretty quick burst. He has a pretty good get off. Hand usage is everything when it comes to defensive ends and linemen, especially defensive ends. He has pretty good hand usage. He needs to develop some more moves and get a little more refined than that. But he has a pretty good bend. He has a pretty good get off. He's not super explosive, but it's impressive enough. Like there's a lot to work with there that he could be a pretty high end. Yeah, he could be. Yeah, and he could be a pretty. And he didn't play a full season last year. I think he got hurt, but he could be a pretty big defensive end. Abraham Cisse was a 5-star from PA from Downingtown. Now I did hear that they did offer Cisse a 7-figure deal as well. What happened was once Deion Barnes, our defensive line coach, left for another job, the interest, Cisse's interest in Penn State kind of faded, and he ended up going to Notre Dame. But it was good to see the staff at least get aggressive for a key position and a top target like Abraham Cisse. But Elijah Gurton, I'm plenty happy with him. A lot of upside there. Kind of reminds me of also an Eater Gross Matos type, if you guys remember him from years back. The other defensive end they got is Carter Blattner. Carter Blattner is about similar size to Gurton. He's about 6'5", 260, 270 range. I'm not huge on Blattner. He's a decent player, but I don't care how big a defensive end is. You have to have a decent burst and get off to get to the pass rusher. There's not a lot of pass rushers out there that you could say are slow. Not slow, but don't have some degree of that quick burst, some degree of twitch. He's not horrible. It's not like his feet stuck in mud. He's just, to me, he's just not as twitchy. He doesn't have as much burst as Gurton does. He's decent. He's a solid prospect, but I would say he's more of just your 3-star type defensive end. On the defense, so I give defensive end a B. Gurton, I give a B+ or an A. Blattner, I give more of a C+. So overall, I'd give him a B. Defensive tackle, I give this group a B. They got 2 guys, 2 separate guys. Now, another big thing you're going to see with Matt Campbell's defense by Danton Lynn. What James Franklin used to do is he would get smaller, oftentimes he'd get smaller D tackles. He would turn a big defensive end into a defensive tackle, like an Akeem Beeman we turn into a defensive tackle. Total opposite with Campbell. Campbell wants the big 300-pound run stuffers, guys that are going to stand their ground, take on a double team, and not get pushed around. One defensive tackle we got, Stanley Montgomery, legit 4-star from Philadelphia. He's like 6'3", 290 range. He might be right around 300. I think he's like 300, 6'3", 300. Good, solid prospect. He's not a Christian Wilkins. He's not a Jalen Carter, but he is a legit 4-star. Can do a lot. He's got a pretty, for a big guy, he can move well. He got a pretty good get off. He's got good hands. He's not great in any one area, but he's very solid all the way around. He is a guy that could get into the backfield. He is more of a, even though he's 300, he's more of your, in this defense, probably be more of your 3-tech type D tackle. He could chase the running back down outside the tackle box. He'll get in the backfield. He's more active, pretty athletic for a big guy. I really like Stanley Montgomery. The other defensive tackle they got, I think he is highly underrated. His name is I don't know if I'm going to say this right. It's like Anti-Pavia from Utah. So there is like that Samoan connection with our D tackle coach, Ike Malone, or Malloy, whatever his name is. This Anti-Pavia is an absolute powerhouse. I'm not saying it should be a 4-star, but if I was ranking him, I'd have him as a pretty high 3-star. He's not a guy that's going to be like, he's opposite of Montgomery. He's not going to be chasing running backs down outside the tackle box and getting in the backfield and getting sacks. But this guy is just a pure muscle. This guy's, he's what, like 6'2", 320 pounds already, I think. He's a pure muscle. He will not get pushed around. He's your ultimate one-tech type of D tackle. He will take the double team on at the point of attack. He will not get pushed around. He'll be very, very, very hard to handle one-on-one because he's so powerful. And this is the type of, like, not a guy that's going to fill up a stat sheet, but a guy that's absolutely going to do his job, clog up the middle, and not get pushed around and take on double teams. Definitely a guy I think that is underrated. Linebackers, they got 2 linebackers. I gave linebackers a B+. They just got, a couple of weeks back, they got Case Alexander. I think Case Alexander, if I was to pick one player that is the best overall in the class, I think Case Alexander is probably the best recruit they got. From Oklahoma, his brother Cooper Alexander is a tight end. He was tight end at Iowa State. Came over to Penn State with Campbell when they all transferred over. This kid's a stud. This kid could do it all. It's very hard when you watch film and you do evaluations. You write down their strengths and then you try to write down weaknesses. It's hard to find a weakness in this kid's film. He's that good. Now, he's not an athletic freak. He's not an Abdul Carter, or he's not going to be as fast as a Curtis Jacobs, where he's running like a 4.4, 4.5. But the kid is physical as could be. I think he's listed, 6'2", 6'3", 220, he's going to get bigger, and he could just do it all. He reads and reacts extremely fast. Instincts are so important for linebackers, being able to read and react and trigger downhill. You see that play? When he diagnoses plays so well. Once he sees where the play is going, where the ball carrier is going, where the quarterback keeps it, running back gets it. Once he reads that and reacts, he's a heat-seeking missile. There's no wasted motion, and he triggers downhill. Is an incredible run defender. So, I mean, just really, really good linebacker. He could play Mike. He could play well. He could even play Sam. And he's also really good at pass coverage. This is what I mean by it's hard to find a weakness. He is really good in space and very comfortable in pass coverage. He could play very good in zones, very good at reading the quarterback, and just having a feel of where the ball is going to go. The kid's a heat-seeking missile. And I know this is a bit of a bold statement, but I think this could be the best linebacker we've had. See, I think this kid could be better than any linebacker, well, excluding Micah Parsons, who really should have been a defensive end. But if you take away Micah Parsons, this kid, I think, will be the best linebacker we've ever had of any linebacker that James Franklin had. I know that's a bold statement, but I'm that big on the kid. He's that good. I mean, the kid was made to play linebacker. I think his father may have been an NFL guy, so he's coached up right, good family. If his father wasn't an NFL guy, his father actually played for Oklahoma. I know the Sooners were really pissed off at losing the kid, but when his brother's at Penn State, I don't know what they expected. There he is in pass coverage, fighting off the block. He's extremely physical. Like he could shed with the best of them. I mean, he could shed. and it just a great
coverage.
linebacker. Yeah, the kid could play.
You
The
know
other
who he does
linebacker.
remind me of? You know who he does remind me of?
Who's that?
And you're, Aiden Fisher at Indiana.
Yeah,
His read,
yeah,
his react, his coverage, everything else.
yeah.
I mean, he. I'm not saying he's going to be Aiden Fisher or anything like that. Please don't have me put that expectations on him. But the way I'm seeing this film right here, he's got a lot of Aiden Fisher in him with his play style and everything.
Yeah, just a very smart, instinctual linebacker and a pretty good athlete. Like there's guys that are instinctual, but like you see how quick he gets in the backfield. You see how quick he triggers.
He's got a really nice trigger. Yeah.
There's no wasted movement. Like he just once he dissects it and it reacts, he's in the backfield in very short time.
Yeah. A lot of confidence. If that translates over to college, that's going to be scary.
Yep. Other linebacker they got Blake Betton, Betton. Blake Betton was from Minnesota. He was actually, I think, a strong safety, and more of like a box safety, which should translate well to to being a regular linebacker. This is another kid. I think he's better than 88. I think Rivals has him as a 90. I'd have the kid as around a 91, 92 4-star. He's like 6'3". I forget what it says there. I know he's like around 6'3", 210. He'll bulk up. This is more of an athletic type linebacker. He also plays he's also physical. When I say athletic, that doesn't mean he's still very physical. But he's more of your athletic sideline to sideline linebacker, could chase guys down. He could play in the box, he could play outside. And just a good, and he's another guy that has good instincts, playing safety. He's good in coverage. So he already has coverage skills. Good all-around linebacker, more of an athletic linebacker than probably what Case is. And just a guy that could chase plays down sidelines to sideline. I don't know who comp I'd compare him to because he's kind of his own guy, pretty big. But maybe like a Curtis Jacobs type, just a good athletic linebacker. So I really like both these linebackers. I give them a B+. Safety. Safety wasn't so great. I give the safety position a C+. We missed out on the top 3 safeties, our top 3 safety targets. We missed on all of them. NIL is killing me. Gabriel Jenkins was a 4-star safety from Western PA, was actually committed to Penn State at one point. It's unbelievable. So Colorado offered this kid a boatload of money. I don't know why, how he found Colorado, but Colorado offered this kid a 7-figure NIL deal. And supposedly they're putting they got his family a house or an apartment. They put his family up in Boulder. So during his college career, his family has a nice pad, all expenses paid in Boulder, and they gave this kid a pretty big 7-figure deal. He was their number one of their top safety recruits. We missed out on him. Then you go to Cooper Onmacht, Onmacht. Cooper Onmacht was from Kansas, tall, big, very athletic linebacker, fast, good all-around athlete. They're probably recruiting him when Campbell was at Iowa State. He really liked Penn State, but he stayed home from Kansas. I'm sure Kansas State gave him a pretty good offer. Being the hometown boy, he stayed home. He was another one of their top targets. Their last top target at safety was a guy named Kei'Shjuan from he was either a McDonough or DeMatha in Maryland. I know he's from Maryland. It was either McDonough or DeMatha. I think DeMatha. He ended up going to Auburn. Just another NIL. It's just another NIL loss for Penn State. I know it's just a safety, but man, you got to get one of these guys. You can't miss on 3 of your top safety targets. Kei'Shjuan Telfair, just a good athlete, just similar to Gabriel Jenkins, just a good all-around athlete, could cover, could trigger downhill. You could clearly see the potential, and they missed on all of them. They ended up getting Caleb Cooper really late, who was ranked, I don't know. He was so far down the list, it's ridiculous. They got a guy, Caleb Cooper, I think he was either South Carolina, North Carolina. Good box safety, very, very good box safety, but not much experience as a coverage safety. Caleb Cooper, almost like another linebacker, but like I said, if this was just a box safety, he'd be ranked higher. But for an all-around safety, needing coverage skills, not much in the coverage skills department. And the other safety, they got a guy named Jonathan Gillette. I think he was from New Jersey. It's just another average 3-star guy. Physical safety, average athlete. I mean, nothing to get excited about. Maybe he turns into a decent player. Not saying he's horrible, but neither Caleb Cooper or Jonathan Gillette they're not the athletes of Jenkins, Crumb, or Onmock. They don't have the upside as those. So a little down on safety. Lastly, corner. Corner was an interesting position. So I gave corner a B+. Kei'Shjuan Telfair. Kei'Shjuan Telfair from Ohio. This guy is as quick and as fast as can be. He is like lightning in a bottle. I know he's kind of skinny. I forget how tall he is. This dude is a legit 4-star, Kei'Shjuan Telfair. This guy could fly. He even has wide receiver highlights, played both ways. Very impressive. Quick change of direction, fluid hips. He has everything you want in a big play, big time corner. Just needs to bulk up. He needs to get bigger. Kind of surprised Ohio State wasn't on him more, but then again, Ohio State could just, get whoever they want pretty much. So Kei'Shjuan Telfair, number 1 corner they wanted on their board, big time corner, very happy with him. They had 2 other corners committed. They had a guy named Samaje Robinson, who was a big 6'2" corner, 4-star from Florida. And they had a guy named Zachary Gleason, I believe his name was, a corner from PA. Samaje Robinson was actually on an official visit to Penn State. I don't know what he did, but he rubbed the staff the wrong way, and the staff basically cut him. Like he did say he was going to go on other visits. The staff knew about it. I don't know if they were against it or they didn't want him to, but they actually pretty much cut him on an official visit. He was there at Penn State on an official visit, then he wasn't with them anymore. So he ended up going, I think it was Virginia he committed to. And then Zachary Gleason, Western PA kid, was an average 3-star, not a huge loss. West Virginia came in. West Virginia offered him a ton of NIL, a lot more than what Penn State was giving them. I don't mind that as an NIL loss. The kid was nothing special, just an average, run-of-the-mill, 3-star corner. But we needed another corner. So they went out and got, a couple weeks ago, last minute, they got a corner named Dylan McGee from Texas. They are huge on Dylan McGee. Dylan McGee is a 6'1" corner with great length. He's very underrated. I think he should be a 4-star. He played hurt. I know earlier in the game, he making a tackle. He got some kind of leg injury. But Dylan McGee, I forget his speed numbers, but he's pretty fast. I know he ran a really fast 100-meter dash. I don't know if he's like a 10.6 kid or something like that, but 10.6, 10.7, fast 100-meter dash, good size, plays very physical, just physical talent, a lot to work with. Terry Smith's the best corner coach in the country. Really like this kid. And then the last corner they got is a 3-star named Karan Caesar. Solid corner, pretty good athlete. Really not a lot to say. Just decent size, decent cover skills. Pretty good in his zone. But the 2 gems of the cornerback class are Kei'Shjuan Telfair and Delvin McGee. Those two corners, a lot to work with there, a lot of athleticism, a lot of speed. So good cornerback class. So that about wraps it up. I'm sorry. I know I went way over in the time you're expecting. Got to do better. Like I said, we got some solid players, but you got to do better than 20th in the country. You have to do better. You got to be willing to take your shots with NIL. You said you're not going to. You want to build through recruiting. You're not going to be living in the portal. You got to do better. You got to learn some lessons. You can't hedge. And hopefully, and listen, next year, here's an example. 2028, we got a lot of another big class for Pennsylvania. It started off pretty good. We just got a big time quarterback. God, I forget the kid's name already. But early on we got a big time corner, Deontay Fleming from PA. I can't believe I forget this quarterback's name. But anyways, James Armstrong. There you go.
There you go.
Like George Parkinson is a top defensive end from Pennsylvania from Malvern Prep. He looks just like Luke Wafel. Tall, 6'5", big body, just a picture perfect type of kid, body size they would want. The kid's a stud. George Parkinson. He just cut his final list. Here's his final schools: Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas A&M, and I think LSU and Tennessee. What doesn't seem right there?
Chris,
you got
there's
NILU,
a lot of money that's going to get thrown around there.
NILU, and Penn State. No, I'm not saying Penn State doesn't have a chance on them. But these are the type of kids you got to go overboard for. Listen, my thing is you don't have a ton of NIL. You can't give it to everybody. I get it. At least build around your core positions. What Ryan Day said when NIL started is what I agree with. Have enough money to get a top quarterback, a stud wide receiver, a top left tackle, assuming your quarterback's righty. Get a top quarterback, top tackle, top receiver, top defensive end. Get your core positions, top corner, build around them, and go, and then get lower. If you want to get lower level guys and develop them, that's fine. And already it's very early, but already Ohio State's the early leader for this kid. So, kids are going to get huge offers. That's him. And it's a shame because if this was prior to NIL, or all schools have the same money, this type of kid would almost be a lock to come to Penn State. Now with NIL, it is what it is.
Like you said, Matt Campbell's going to have to learn the NIL game a little bit more, coming from Iowa State. Thankfully, seems like he is he's learning a little bit, at least this offseason here, so we'll see how that continues to work out. Like I said, I do not think Matt Campbell's no dummy or anything like that, nor do you think he's that. So he's going to learn, he's going to adjust and get better, and I have faith that Penn State will make the big time offers they need to make to get some of the guys that they invest the most in or think the most about. So we'll see if it happens, but I have faith Penn State will do that. I'm not calling them NILU, but I do think they'll go after and make sure they're at the very least competitive with teams.
Just
guys they really
key positions. Just at least get your key position, man. That's it.
Yep. So
that's
all
it.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, a testament to what he does, which gets overlooked, and I mentioned this back when I was on with you. But I think you're cutting. But what I was just going to say is a testament that gets overlooked was his 2026 class that he had to put together last minute. They got a lot of low level guys that are already showing out. They got some really Amarian Jackson, a receiver from Nebraska, was this low level 3-star, 6'2", 190 pounds. He's already supposed to play this year. Kid's a great route runner, one of the faster receivers in the room. Josiah Zayas, kid from New Jersey. He's listed a corner, 6'2", 200 pounds. Kid could run. Supposed to be a top defensive back. Probably end up being a safety down the road. They know about Elijah Reeder, so he does have a very good eye for talent. Don't overlook the 26 class. We got some gems there too. just need to do a little better. Like I said, adjust to the NIL, get a little more aggressive at key positions, and hopefully we'll be all right.
Penn State will be
That's
all
pretty
right.
much it.
They will supplement. They will do what they need to do. And we'll see how the class ends as well. You know, as we saw last year, a lot of stuff can happen at the end of the class. And who knows if Penn State discovers they got some extra money for this class, they might just go out and try to spend it on a couple more guys. So I'm not saying that's going to happen by any means, but we'll see what happens. So Chris, thanks for coming on, talking with us, grading the recruiting class so far. We'll have you on again next week. We're going to try to make this a weekly thing with Chris, having him on to talk recruiting, season, all that stuff and everything. Really just whatever is on Chris's heart for the Penn State Nittany Lions. We'll talk about it. We'll have a good time with it. So come back again next week. We'll do these probably on Thursdays, maybe sometimes on Fridays if we have to and stuff. So appreciate you being here. Thanks. Have a good one. We'll talk to you next time.
No problem. Have a good day, guys.
See ya.